All right, so you guys are ready to go deep on this one.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So Islamic Sufism. And specifically, we are diving into, you sent us a dissertation, whole PhD dissertation,
Yeah.
on the practice of dhikr,
That's right.
which means remembrance of God.
Mm-hmm.
And this is looking specifically at, it's a deep analysis of a 14th century Sufi manual called Miftah al-Falah.
The key to salvation.
The key to salvation, yeah. So we are going to unpack, we're going to go deep. We're going to unpack different types of dhikr, what they do to your soul, and even learn some specific invocations that are used by Sufis.
Yeah, this dissertation, it's like, it creates this bridge between us and the minds of these 14th century Sufis.
I love that.
Like, we get to peek into their world and how they approach spirituality.
Yeah, like time travel for the mind.
Exactly.
So let's start. Let's start with the author of the Miftah al-Falah, Ibn Ata'Allah.
Ibn Ata'Allah.
Who is this guy?
Well, Ibn Ata'Allah, he was a scholar in Alexandria, Egypt, way back late 13th, early 14th centuries.
Okay.
And he wasn't just any scholar. This guy, he was an expert in Islamic law, theology, philosophy,
Wow.
you name it.
Okay.
Even literature.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
True Renaissance man.
Right.
I'm sensing a butt coming, though.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the fascinating part. So Ibn Ata'Allah was praised by Ibn Taymiyyah, and Ibn Taymiyyah was actually known for being pretty critical of certain aspects of Sufism.
Okay.
So even someone who wasn't necessarily on board with all the Sufi practices
You're saying.
saw the brilliance in Ibn Ata'Allah's work.
Ah.
So that kind of tells you something about the depth and the respect that this man commanded.
So he mastered fields that often kind of clash, like law and mysticism.
Yeah.
So that suggests that dhikr isn't just for, hermits up in a cave.
Right.
It can enhance any pursuit if it's done with the right intention.
Exactly. It's about bringing that mindfulness, that connection to the divine into everything that you do.
Okay. So now I'm even more curious about this Miftah al-Falah. You said it's like a guide to the practice of dhikr, right?
Yeah.
What's the book itself like?
So the dissertation actually translates the title as The Key to Salvation and the Lamp of Souls. And it's essentially a manual for how to practice dhikr effectively.
Okay.
And it's divided into two parts, with the first part laying out the theory,
Okay.
and then the second part getting into the practical application.
Theory and practice.
Yeah.
Ibn Ata'Allah was clearly a well-rounded teacher.
Absolutely. But what's interesting is the dissertation points out that the book's organization is a bit jumbled.
Really?
Yeah, it jumps around between ideas.
Ah.
So it's almost like we're getting Ibn Ata'Allah's unfiltered thoughts.
Oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Makes it feel more personal, like we're peeking into his thought process.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let's get to the core of it all.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly I asked dhikr?
Well, at its most basic level, dhikr is the remembrance of God. But it goes beyond just thinking about God, right?
Okay.
It can be vocal, it can be mental, it can even be expressed through actions.
Wait, actions. How can actions be a form of remembrance? I get like repeating God's name or phrases.
Sure. Think about it like this, right? A theologian who's studying sacred texts, but like with deep focus.
Okay, yeah.
A lawyer who's passionately fighting for justice.
Hmm.
A musician who's pouring their soul into a performance.
Okay.
All of these can be forms of dhikr if they're done with the right intention, with the heart turned towards God.
So it's about infusing everything you do with that awareness of the divine.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
And, for Sufis, dhikr is the key to unlocking spiritual growth. It's the path to purifying the heart, stripping away layers of ego and negativity, and ultimately drawing closer to God.
It's not just about reciting words, it's about a transformation of your entire being.
Precisely.
Okay.
And in the Miftah al-Falah, Ibn Ata'Allah goes deep into different types of dhikr, each one having its own unique effect on the soul.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Tell me more about these different types of dhikr.
All right, so Ibn Ata'Allah uses this really interesting analogy. He compares the layers of dhikr to the coverings of an onion.
Okay.
Like you peel away each layer and you get closer and closer to that core.
Okay.
So the most basic level is what we call vocal dhikr. And that's where you repeat God's name or sacred phrases out loud.
That's what I initially pictured when I think of dhikr, like chanting or reciting prayers.
Exactly, yeah. But then as you progress on the path of dhikr, you move to a deeper level. And Sufis call this heart-centered dhikr.
Okay.
Now, the invocation isn't just on your lips, it's like permeating your entire being. You become so absorbed in the remembrance that that distinction between you and the invoked, between you and God, it starts to dissolve.
Wow, that sounds intense. Do you have any examples of what this, like, deeper, heart-centered Deeker feels like?
Yeah, so the dissertation actually pulls this really powerful quote from the Miftah al-Falah that describes the state perfectly. And Ibn Attallah writes, "The sign of the invocations reaching the innermost self is the absence of the invoker from both the invocation and the invoked. The invocation of the self, del crusur, is ecstasy and drowning in it. Amongst its signs is that when you quit the invocation, it does not quit you. That is the exaltation of the invocation in you that rouses you."
So it's like when you have a song stuck in your head,
Yeah.
but instead of like a catchy tune, it's a divine invocation that resonates deep within you even when you're not consciously repeating it.
That's a brilliant way to put it. That's the power of heart-centered dhikr. It becomes woven into the fabric of your being.
Okay, so we've got these different levels of Deeker. But what are the benefits? What can someone actually expect to gain from this practice?
Well, you'll find in the dissertation that the Miftah al-Falah lists some pretty amazing benefits.
Yeah.
For one, it says that dhikr repels negative influences like evil thoughts, worries, grief.
Sign me up. Who doesn't want more joy and less worry in their life?
Exactly. But it goes beyond that. The Miftah al-Falah also says that dhikr strengthens both your body and mind.
Wow.
It cultivates inner peace and order, and it can even lead to spiritual insight and gnosis.
Now, I'm picturing a Deeker practitioner being so incredibly zen that nothing can shake them.
Well, there's actually a story in the Miftah al-Falah that illustrates this perfectly.
Okay.
It tells of a Sufi sheikh who was so absorbed in dhikr that he didn't even notice when his money bag fell off.
Oh, wow.
That's the level of focus and detachment that this practice can cultivate.
That's incredible. It almost sounds like a superpower.
It's certainly a powerful practice, but it's important to remember that dhikr, especially the deeper levels, it's a journey. It takes guidance and dedication.
Makes sense.
It's not something you can just master overnight.
So for someone listening who might be thinking, okay, I'm interested, how do I get started? What guidance does the Miftah al-Falah offer?
Well, the dissertation outlines a path based on the text. And the first and most crucial step is finding a qualified guide, a Sufi sheikh, who can provide personalized instruction.
That makes a lot of sense. Like with any complex skill, having a teacher can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And the Miftah al-Falah specifically recommends starting with prayers upon the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay.
It's seen as a gentle but powerful way to cultivate love and remembrance.
So you start with love and build from there. That's beautiful. What comes after that?
Well, from there, you gradually move to other invocations, each with its own specific purpose and effect.
Okay.
And the dissertation gives us some pretty fascinating examples of these.
Now you're talking. Let's hear about some of these specific invocations from the Miftah al-Falah. Give me the highlights.
All right. One of the most fundamental invocations is La ilaha illallah.
Okay.
It's the core statement of Islamic monotheism, meaning there is no God but God.
There is no God but God. So simple, yet so profound.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be a bedrock for many Sufi practices.
And in the dissertation, there's a whole deep dive into all the various layers of meaning and understanding associated with that phrase.
Oh, wow.
Another powerful invocation is simply Allah, the name of God itself, and it's used for deep contemplation and connection with the divine. And then there's Huwa, which means he.
Okay.
And it's a pronoun pointing to the ultimate reality used for self-effacement, dissolving the ego.
It's amazing how much depth and meaning can be packed into just a few words. Are there any stories or anecdotes that illustrate the power of these invocations?
Yeah, there's actually a rather stark story in the Miftah al-Falah. It's about this man who would only answer Huwa to any question that he was asked.
Wow.
He was so absorbed in this invocation, so completely identified with the divine, that when someone asked him, "Perhaps you desire God?" he cried out and died.
Wow, that's intense. It really makes you think about how these aren't just words. They're gateways to powerful spiritual states.
Exactly. But, the dissertation also makes it clear that the path of dhikr isn't always easy. There are challenges and potential pitfalls to be aware of.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that someone practicing Dhikr might encounter?
One of the biggest challenges that's highlighted in the Miftah al-Falah is the need for sincerity.
Okay.
If you're doing dhikr for show or out of ego, it's not going to yield the true benefits.
Right.
It has to come from a place of genuine yearning for connection with God.
That makes sense. Like with anything in life, if your heart's not in it, you're not going to get much out of it.
Precisely. And the dissertation also mentions the dangers of self-deception, especially during, these intense spiritual retreats.
Okay, yeah.
It's easy to kind of get caught up in these mystical experiences and lose sight of the real goal.
As you need a reality check every now and then. That's where having a guide becomes so important, right?
Exactly. The Miftah al-Falah consistently stresses the importance of having a qualified teacher to help you navigate these potential pitfalls and to kind of keep you moving in the right direction.
This is all so fascinating. It's clear that Sufi dhikr is so much more than just repeating words.
Yeah,
It's a complex, multifaceted path with incredible potential for transformation.
absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much more to explore in this dissertation and in the Miftah al-Falah itself.
This is why I love these deep dives.
Me too.
We get to uncover these hidden gems of knowledge, and we explore them together. But we're not done yet, are we? There's still more to uncover in part 2 of our Dhikr deep dive.
You know what's really striking about the Miftah al-Falah is that Ibn Allah doesn't treat dhikr as some isolated practice.
Yeah.
He really emphasizes how interconnected it is with other aspects of the Sufi path.
That makes sense to me. I mean, you can't just chant a few words and expect to become, a spiritual master.
Right.
It's got to be more to it.
Yes. Exactly. And the dissertation really explores these interconnected elements. For example, it highlights the importance of things like repentance, self-discipline, refining one's character as essential prerequisites for truly benefiting from dhikr.
So it's about setting the stage, preparing yourself internally so those seeds of dhikr can really take root and flourish.
Perfect analogy. And the dissertation also digs into Ibn Athalah's discussion of the different levels of spiritual seekers and how their approach to dhikr might vary.
Hold on. Different levels of spiritual seekers.
Yeah.
I need a bit of clarification on that. What exactly does he mean by that?
Sure. So it's not about a rigid hierarchy or anything like that. It's more about recognizing that people are at different points in their spiritual journeys.
Okay.
Some are just beginning, while others have been practicing, diligently for years.
Right.
And that impacts the types of dhikr that are most beneficial for them.
So it's more about a personalized approach, tailoring the practice to where you are on your path.
Precisely. For example, for those who are new to dhikr, the dissertation mentions that focusing on prayers upon the Prophet Muhammad is a good starting point
Okay.
because it's a very gentle way to kind of open the heart and cultivate that love for the divine.
It's like laying the foundation with love and devotion.
Yeah.
What about for those who are more advanced in their practice?
Well, for those who are, further along the path, Ibn Athallah introduces more complex invocations,
Yeah.
each one aimed at, specific spiritual refinements or insights.
Oh, okay. Now you've got me really intrigued. Could you give me some examples of these more advanced invocations?
Yeah, so the dissertation mentions a fascinating one, invoking the name Al-Haq,
Okay.
which means the truth.
The truth.
And this is for seekers who've already attained a certain level of purification
Yeah.
and are ready to contemplate the ultimate reality.
Contemplating the truth. That sounds pretty intense. What kind of effects are associated with invoking this name?
Well, according to the dissertation, it can lead to profound spiritual insights, a deeper understanding of God's nature, and even experiences of unity with the divine.
Wow.
But again, it's not for those who are just, starting out on their journey.
It definitely sounds like it requires a lot of preparation and careful guidance.
Absolutely. That's why having a qualified Sufi teacher is so crucial, right?
Yeah.
They can help you kind of assess where you are on your path,
Right.
guide you towards the practices that will be most beneficial for your development.
I'm starting to see how vital the role of a spiritual teacher is in this tradition. It's like having a personal trainer for your soul.
I love that analogy. And in the Miftah al-Falah, Ibn Attallah really emphasizes that the relationship between a seeker and their guide is sacred. It's built on trust, respect, and complete surrender to the teacher's wisdom.
So it's not just about, getting instructions. It's about aligning yourself with, a lineage of spiritual knowledge.
Yes. And the dissertation also highlights how deeply devoted Ibn Attallah was to his own spiritual teacher, Shayk Abul Abbas Lamursi.
Okay.
He's constantly referring to his Shaykh's teachings and experiences as a source of inspiration.
It's beautiful, how this chain of transmission, it keeps
Yeah.
those teachings alive across generations.
It is a powerful reminder that we're part of a living tradition, a spiritual lineage that goes back centuries.
Wow.
And through practices like dhikr, we can tap into that ancient wisdom and experience its transformative power in our own lives.
That gives me chills. It's like we're connecting with a whole community of seekers, across time and space.
Exactly. And the dissertation emphasizes that, even though this research is an academic one, it's ultimately about something far greater than just, intellectual knowledge.
Yeah,
It's about experiencing the divine. It's about transforming ourselves, connecting with something that transcends our limited egos.
that's the real beauty of it, right? It's not just theory, it's about lived experience.
Ex-
That's what makes it so fascinating, even for someone like me who's just learning about it.
It's a journey that's open to anyone with a sincere heart and a willingness to put in the effort.
Hmm.
And the Miftah al-Falah is like that guidebook, a map for navigating this path and discovering the treasures that lie within.
Okay. So we've got this amazing guidebook in the Miftah al-Falah,
Yeah.
The Importance of a Spiritual Teacher,
Mm-hmm.
all these different types of Decker to explore.
Right.
But what about the practical side of things?
Sure.
Like if someone decides, okay, I'm going to embark on this path, what does it actually look like in their daily life?
Well, the Miftah al-Falah actually offers a lot of practical guidance, and the dissertation highlights some key aspects. For instance, it stresses the importance of creating a space that's conducive to dhikr.
That makes sense.
Mm.
If you're trying to cultivate inner peace and connect with God, chanting in a noisy nightclub probably isn't the best setting.
You got a point. The Miftah al-Falah recommends finding a quiet place where you can be alone with your thoughts and focus on the practice without distractions.
So creating a peaceful environment where you can really go inward,
Exact.
maybe setting up a little altar or something.
Exactly. It's about creating that sense of sacredness.
Okay.
The dissertation also mentions the importance of things like maintaining ritual purity, wearing clean clothes, and even being mindful of your diet as ways to prepare yourself for dhikr.
Wait, diet. What does food have to do with spiritual practice?
Well, it's all about creating that sense of harmony and alignment within yourself, right?
Okay.
And the Miftah al-Falah points out that what you put into your body, it can actually impact your mental and spiritual state. So eating light, wholesome foods that promote clarity and focus, they can actually support your dhikr practice.
It's like that saying, you are what you eat, but applied to your spiritual life.
Precisely. And beyond the physical environment and preparation, the dissertation also explores the importance of consistency and discipline when it comes to dhikr.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like with any skill, you have to practice regularly to get results.
Exactly. The Miftah al-Falah recommends making dhikr a part of your daily routine,
Okay.
setting aside specific times for practice and gradually increasing the duration as you progress.
So it's not something you do sporadically. It's about weaving it into the fabric of your life.
Exactly. And the dissertation emphasizes that this consistency, it's key to unlocking those deeper benefits of dhikr.
Right.
It's through the repeated practice that those invocations start to permeate your being and transform you from the inside out.
Getting a real sense of the dedication and commitment this path requires. It's not just a hobby. It's a way of life.
It's a beautiful way of life, one filled with meaning, purpose, and connection to something much greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
And the Miftah al-Falah, along with this dissertation, it offers that map for anyone wanting to embark on this journey.
I'm so glad we're diving into this together.
Me too.
It's incredibly eye-opening, but we're not done yet, are we? There's still more to uncover in the final part of our Dhikr Deep Dive. As we've been exploring this world of Sufi Dhikr, I keep coming back to this idea of transformation. It seems like Dhikr isn't just about having a nice mystical experience.
Right.
It's about, changing who you are at your core.
Yeah, and the dissertation actually addresses that directly.
Okay.
It highlights how the Miftah al-Falah talks about dhikr as a process of polishing the mirror of the heart.
Polishing the mirror of the heart. I love that imagery. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's about removing the dust and the grime that kind of builds up on our hearts over time.
Yeah.
Sufis believe that, we're born with pure hearts, but then they get clouded by, worldly attachments, negative emotions, egotistical desires.
Right. So it's like our hearts are meant to reflect the divine, but they need some cleaning to really shine that light.
Precisely. And dhikr is like that ultimate heart polish. Through the repetition of God's names and being completely absorbed in remembrance, we chip away at those impurities and allow the heart's true nature to come through.
That's beautiful. It makes me think that Dhikr isn't just about, changing ourselves, but it's about becoming a clearer channel for the divine to work through us.
That's a powerful insight, and the dissertation emphasizes that this transformation isn't just internal.
Right.
It shows up in how we act, how we interact with the world.
So it's not about becoming some, isolated mystic.
Right.
It's about bringing that transformation into our daily lives.
Absolutely. The Miftah al-Falah talks about how dhikr cultivates qualities like humility, compassion, generosity.
Okay.
It makes us more aware of God's presence in everything and everyone, which, leads to more ethical and loving behavior.
I love that. It's not just about personal enlightenment. It's about making the world a better place. Now, the dissertation mentions a story about a Sufi sheikh that really highlights this. Can you tell us more about that?
Of course. So the story goes that this sheikh was walking through a marketplace and he saw this man selling rotten dates.
Ross dates.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Not exactly appetizing, right?
Yeah.
But instead of judging the man, the sheikh was just overcome with compassion. He understood that the man was probably struggling and was selling these dates out of desperation.
That's a real shift in perspective. I can see how Deke can cultivate that kind of empathy and understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the story continues, saying that the sheikh bought all the rotten dates from the man.
Really?
Not because he wanted them, but to ease the man's burden.
Wow, that's true generosity. It's like the sheikh saw the divine light in that struggling man
Yeah.
and just responded with love.
Exactly. And the dissertation points out that this is the essence of living a transformed life, right?
Yeah.
Seeing the world through the lens of dhikr, reacting to difficulty with generosity and grace, letting that divine shine through in all you do.
This is so inspiring. We've just, dipped our toes into the ocean of Sufi dhikr,
Yeah.
but I can already feel its power.
It's a journey worth taking, one that can lead to deep personal growth, spiritual awakening, and a more loving way of being in the world.
For anyone listening who feels that spark of curiosity and wants to explore this further, what guidance does the dissertation offer?
Well, it emphasizes that the Miftah al-Falah, it's just one of many incredible Sufi texts out there.
Right.
It encourages seeking out, other works by Ibn Attallah,
Okay.
exploring the teachings of other Sufi masters.
So it's like opening a door to a whole library of spiritual wisdom.
Precisely. And beyond reading, the dissertation also encourages finding, a qualified Sufi teacher who can provide personalized guidance and support on this path.
That's so important. It's like having a seasoned guide to help you navigate, uncharted territory.
Absolutely. And finally, the dissertation reminds us to approach this path with sincerity, humility, and a genuine desire to connect with the divine.
Beautifully said. It's been an incredible journey exploring this topic together. But now it's time for each of us to take what we've learned and embark on our own explorations.
May the path of dhikr lead us all to greater love, wisdom, and peace.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.